Hello, this is Mike Wheeler, and today we're going to talk about personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, for our Week 3 Safety and Leadership course. Let's get started. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to list the employer and employee responsibilities regarding PPE, explain how your work clothing can impact your safety, explain why proper glove selection is important, explain the differences between everyday eyeglasses, safety glasses, and safety goggles, identify the noise level at which hearing protection is required, and describe the two basic kinds of respirators. So PPE, when we can't eliminate a hazard from the workplace, we rely on PPE to help keep us safe. And I say help keep us safe because PPE will not keep us safe. It will just help. There's PPE for virtually every part of your body, and there's many factors to decide what the proper PPE requirements are for a specific job. Like most workplace safety items, responsibilities surrounding PPE are a shared responsibility. Your employer is responsible for identifying the required PPE for a specific task or area, ensuring that your PPE is worn as required. Usually that's through rules and regulations. Ensuring that only approved PPE is used. They're supposed to keep an eye on you that you're not, bringing stuff into the shop that's not actual certified PPE. Ensuring that PPE is cleaned and maintained properly. That's for you. That's going to be making cleaning supplies available so you can clean them, and then training employees on the purpose, limitations, and proper use of the PPE. Now, your responsibilities are: you need to inspect all required PPE for cleanliness, proper function, damage, all that kind of stuff before use, and use it in a manner that won't damage it. Wearing, you need to wear your PPE correctly at all times. Improper use will not provide the designed protection for that PPE. And then you need to report any defects or damaged PPE to your supervisor so they can replace it. Work clothes. So your employer is responsible for determining the work clothing to be used on the job. Like PPE, the requirements for work clothing depend greatly on the job at hand. For welding, our clothes should be clean, so free of grease and oil, in good condition, so no frays, rips, or holes, and made from materials that will not melt, which is polyesters, most synthetic materials. It's getting harder and harder to find like 100% cotton stuff. That's one of the best choices for welding because it'll burn and smolder, but it won't melt to your body. The other good option is wool. It's expensive, hot in the summer, but those cotton and wool are probably the two best options for work clothing. Not just the material, but how it fits you is important too. So when operating machinery, loose clothing is dangerous because it can be caught in machinery. When operating machine tools or other rotating equipment, you should not wear long sleeves, loose clothing, or anything else that could become entangled with the tools. If you want to see some terrible stuff, look up lathe injuries. You'll see people getting careless. The lathe, whatever's running, will snag their clothing and pull them in. And I don't know if you've ever, have a juicer at home for juicing carrots and stuff like that for healthy drinks, but they do a pretty good job of juicing people. They're nasty. There's also, and this is fairly common or fairly recent, probably the last 5 years, FR, fire-resistant shirts and pants are coming available. They actually work really well for light welding and general shop wear, but they are not for serious welding activities that would require leather, and they should not be used as a replacement for welding PPE in most applications. Most applications. MIG welding, TIG welding, they're amazing. Anything that produces a lot of spatter or slag, they're a bad choice because leather, that stuff will hit it and roll off of it. The FR shirts, a lot of times it'll catch it and will just sit there and they won't light on fire, but it'll create a hot spot on your arm, hot enough to melt you or to burn you through the shirt. Special body protection. Some tasks will require special protection because of the hazards they present. A good example of this is leathers that welders wear to protect from heat, arc flash, weld spatter, or painters wearing Tyvek suits to protect their skin and clothes from paint overspray and chemical exposure. So for welding, like, leather is the king of protective materials. But it would be a poor choice for working with chemicals because it's absorbent and it will hold those hazards against your skin if you end up exposing them to it. For lighter welding applications, tacking stuff together, TIG, GMAW, cloth welding shirts or jackets, FR stuff is a really good choice as well. So remember, these protective items will only be effective if they're in good condition. A welding jacket with holes in it, it will get you burnt. And there's holes. The holes develop where the maximum exposure is, which is usually the crook of your arm, places like that. So, the holes are there for a reason, because that's where most of the sparks land. Well, as the holes get bigger, more and more sparks get into you. And you will weld better when you're not getting burnt. And don't wear your welding jacket or gloves when working with chemicals. Since if your gloves or leathers become contaminated, this will continuously expose you to that toxin over time, and it can make your welding gear flammable. So gloves. Gloves are a very important part of your PPE, since you use your hands for nearly every task in a welding shop. Choosing the correct glove for the correct task can reduce your risk of injury. So welding gloves come in different weights and protection levels for different welding processes and tasks. They're designed to protect your hands from heat, spark, fire, cuts, and abrasions. Using the wrong glove for the wrong task will not offer the correct protection from the above hazards. So it's a trade-off. Everything with PPE is a trade-off. You can sacrifice protection for comfort, but your gloves won't last as long, and they will be less protective to you. And the other thing too is gloves, pretty much all this PPE is consumable items. They're going to get worn out. You've got to replace them. When they get holes in them, replace them. So non-welding gloves. Material handling gloves are usually thinner leather or fabric. When I was younger, everything, we all had these leather driver gloves. Anymore, you're seeing more of the synthetic rubberized gloves, which I actually prefer for most material handling, because they're more cut resistant. You get better feel with them, and you actually get some traction on stuff. Just don't weld in them, because they'll melt right to your hands. Don't use your material or welding gloves when working with chemicals. Again, we don't want them to become contaminated and expose you to that contaminant over time. Wear special gloves for whatever chemical you're using. At the minimum, wear Nertile gloves when working with any chemical. You don't want prolonged exposure to anything that you're going to get exposed to in the shop. And again, glove selection is always a compromise. You want to choose the safest option available for the job at hand. Eye protection. So safety glasses are the single most important piece of PPE you can use. In most shops, they're required at nearly all times. And ANSI rates and approves safety glasses and goggles. So safety glasses are designed to protect your eyes and face from damage caused by foreign objects, dust, sparks, grit, and impacts. They're designed to be impact resistant and will not shatter or break when hit or struck. And that's not just the lenses, it's the frames as well. Safety goggles should be used if dealing with chemicals that can splash, or if you're in an environment that's so hazardous that safety glasses don't offer enough protection from foreign objects. So if you're, got your head stuffed up in a hole, running a die grinder, be wearing goggles to try to keep as much stuff away from your eyes as possible. So prescription glasses, both frames and lenses are not safety glasses unless they're ANSI rated. Prescription safety glasses are readily available, and if you're going to be making a career out of welding, you should invest in a pair of them. I wear Wiley X prescription safety glasses. They're not cheap, but they're tough. They're ANSI rated, so the frames are tough, the lenses are tough. But like I said, if you're going to make a career out of welding and you wear glasses, invest in a good pair of prescription safety glasses. And the other thing too is safety glasses need to be worn at all times, even if you've got another object covering your face, like a welding hood or a face shield. Those are just extra levels of protection. They are not replacements for safety glasses. And face shields should be worn whenever you're grinding or sanding. They do add eye protection, but their primary purpose is to protect your face. And also find safety glasses that fit your face well. Large gaps between the frames and your face can allow objects to hit your eyes. And if you're like me and have the pleasure of wearing prescription glasses, you can't just walk into the eye doctor and pick out the glass you want and just go from there. They have to make sure they fit your face. Safety glasses the same way. There's 1,000 different types of safety glasses. Try them out, see which ones fit you, and then stick with them. Hearing protection. So hearing damage, because it's rarely acutely painful, is one of the hidden hazards we need to manage both on and off the job. Hearing damage impacts nearly everyone in a shop environment over time. So unlike many other hazards, noise exposure is based on time and exposure level, which is measured in decibels or dB. So OSHA's PEL, its permissible exposure limit, is 90 decibels for 8 hours. Above this, hearing protection is required. And I'll tell you right now, 90 decibels for 8 hours, I'd be wearing earplugs in that. Just just to decrease the tension in your body. Like at the end of the day in a shop like that, like you're going to be really tense just from that exposure. You'll feel a lot better, be a lot more relaxed in the day if you wear hearing protection. So OSHA uses the 5 decibel exchange rate, meaning that as decibel increases by 5, the exposure dose or limit is cut in half. So, for example, OSHA allows 8 hours of exposure at 90, but at 100 decibels it's only 2 hours because of that exchange rate. NIOSH would recommend limiting 8-hour exposure to less than 85 decibels because they use a stricter exchange rate of 3 decibels. We protect ourselves from noise through NIOSH rated hearing protection, either plugs or earmuffs, sometimes both. And hearing protection is rated by its noise reduction rating, its NRR. Usually it's in the 20 to 30 decibel range. The good stuff's 29. But remember, this rating is only accurate if you use the products correctly. So if you're using earplugs and you've only got them halfway in your ear, you're not getting 29 decibels protection. You might only be getting 15. So you've got to use them correctly. You know, something to think about is, you know, if OSHA's PEL is 90 decibels and you're running, you know, 1-inch spline drive impact and it's 125 decibels, are 27 decibel rated hearing plugs, earplugs, enough? They're not. You know, if you do the math on that, even after the 27 decibel rating, you know, you're still in the high 90s. So in that situation, you need to wear your earmuffs on top of your earplugs. So hearing damage is permanent. Your body will not heal from it. Doctors cannot repair it. One of the early signs of hearing damage is tinnitus. I have that myself. It's ringing in the ears, and it's at a low level. It's a mild annoyance. I know people that have tinnitus so bad that it keeps them up at night. They're ringing in their ears. They've got to sleep with white noise generators or something like that so they can sleep because the ringing in the ear is so loud when it's an acquired environment. And hearing damage usually affects the higher range frequencies first, and that makes it difficult to pick out voices and conversations in a noisier, crowded environment, and it makes it really hard to hear like your children's voices, your wife's voice, which is not a good thing. So protect yourself now to preserve your hearing later in life. Even if you already have hearing damage, you can stop its progression by effectively using hearing protection both on and off the job. And you know, I don't have bad hearing, but I've noticed a significant decrease in the quality of my hearing over the past 10 years. And it's just because early on I didn't wear hearing protection like I should, done a lot of shooting, listened to a lot of loud music with earbuds, and ran spline drive impacts with no hearing protection. You know, stuff so loud you can feel it in your bones, and now I'm paying for it. So foot protection. So proper footwear to prevent accident or injury is a job-specific issue. Welders, just like everybody else, honestly, our biggest hazard is going to be slips. So we want a non-slip footwear. We also want it to be non-flammable, resistant to sparks and flags, and tough enough to stand up to cuts and slices walking around pieces of steel. For me, quality all leather lace-up boots with Vibram soles are just about perfect. And there's 100 brands. From $50 to $500, they're all great boots. Well, they're not all great boots. Find the boots you like. There are good $50 pair of boots. There's bad $400 pair of boots. So your mileage will vary. So safety toes. Usually they're composites. They used to all be steel toes. Now they're almost all composites. They'll protect your toes from injury if something falls on them, but they won't protect the rest of your foot. Some boots have metatarsal guards, which is a big pad above the toe of your boot. It will protect the small bones in the top of your foot from injury. Boots should cover the ankle to keep sparks from going down inside your boot. And beware of any boot with mesh or synthetic panels, because welding slag and sparks will go right through that and melt those synthetic panels to your foot. And also, I don't like boots that don't lace up. I know a ton of people and good friends of mine, they wear slip-on like cowboy style boots. And I've never been a fan because I've seen too many people that have stuff go down inside of them. And you know, a big piece of welding spatter that goes down your boot and ends up under your foot, the crater that leaves is terrible. So I like lace-up boots because they seal it to my calf, and I know nothing can get in there. Respiratory protection. So depending on what you're doing, you may need to use it on the job. Choosing the correct type is important. Some of it requires specialized training. So true respirators are not a casual used item. You can go to Norco and buy a $20 respirator and it works. In reality, it's not as casual as that. On the job, those require medical examinations and specialized training to use as well, and being fit tested to your face. They also require you to be clean shaven in the area where the respirator seals in order for them to be effective. So even if you've got a respirator, you're issued it on your job, you've had your medical examination, and it's been fit tested, if you don't shave for 2 days, you're no longer certified to wear that respirator until you shave. And you're in violation of probably your company's respiratory protection policy, and you're also in violation of OSHA. So, like I said, it's not a casual use item. Throw it on, throw it off. Even through stubble, it's better than not wearing it, but you're not getting the protection they're designed to provide. Respirators can provide protection from different hazards depending on the type. Some remove particulate. Pretty much all of them do that, and they do it very well. Some will remove gases and fumes. They use special filter canisters for that. And some respirators provide an outside atmosphere, and these are supplied air scuba type. If you're in a situation where you're working in a chemical environment where it can't filter that, they've got to supply clean air into you. Now for the welding trade, new technology has come out in the last 10 years. They're called PAPRs, powered air purifying respirators. They're getting more and more common, and they are, in my opinion, the best choice. It's a backpack, a little waist unit, like a fanny pack, and in this fanny pack is an air pump, a filtration unit, and a hose that comes out. So that hose runs up to a special welding hood that is basically wired for, it's vented, plumbed for air, and the waste unit provides positive pressure constantly into that welding hood so that you're always breathing pressurized, purified air. The great advantage of these is because it's a positive pressure, you don't need fit tests, you don't need medical exams, you don't need shaving for it to work. They just work all the time, and they actually protect better than most respirators do. Downside is they're expensive. A lot of places that run a lot of flux core wire, they're buying them for their people. If you're new into the welding trade and have some money to spend, I would highly recommend getting a PAPR system. I think 3M makes the best ones. The Millers are very, very good and have come a long way since the first iteration. But take a look at them. So wrap up. To be effective, PPE needs to be viewed as a system, not just single objects or pieces of clothing. If you're going to weld flux core overhead, you need all the flux core overhead gear, not just the gloves or not just the jacket. In order to protect you as designed, your PPE must be, you must use the PPE correctly, keep it clean, and maintain it. Most PPE is not one size fits all. You need to find the stuff that works best for you, both in fit and comfort. The specific type and style of PPE will be dependent on the job and the hazards associated with it. You may need 4 types of gloves in any given day in a welding shop. Most PPE are consumable items and will need to be repaired or replaced at some point. And also, you can apply all these principles on and off the job. It should be part of your safety should be part of your daily routine, no matter where you are. If you're running a weed eater for an hour, you should be wearing hearing protection for that. Same thing with your lawnmower. If you're climbing into your car to change the oil, you should be wearing safety glasses under that. So think about that stuff. It's hard to be a welder when you can't get to work because you're injured from working on your car over the weekend. So stay safe. References. Okay, that's all I got. I'll talk to you guys soon.